Work on cars, they said. It'll be fun, they said. So you remember how my transmission pan was leaking? Well, I did a great job of filling it up. I just ran it down to that line. Just got finished of putting 2 quarts in. And I apparently committed homicide. Oh, yeah. Completely committed bloody murder. So it turns out that up on top of this thing, I don't know, there's a hole here in this pan that somehow, maybe I just never got it filled up with that much fluid before. I have no idea. But this little guy sits up here. Now what's crazy is there's this whole hole and there's a boss ready to go. That wasn't where my original leak was coming from, for sure. I saw it weeping kind of the way it looks now, but that's actually from runoff, so I don't feel so bad about that. Just means I get to fog this thing down with some carcinogens, brake clean again, and figure that out. But note, this is where the fluid return line is, which is what I'm filling from, I believe. I'm pretty sure. This boss here, so that's the orientation you're going to see on this pan. And then the case, this has got that raised boss here. Apparently this is either earlier or later Doug Nash unit. No idea. I'll pick that up later. I think that this thing originally came with a dipstick tube, but my old unit didn't have it. So that's that same boss. There's a whole raised portion here on that particular unit that simply does not exist on the one that's installed in the car. So I got to figure that out. And that's going to take a week, probably, to get that part. So I'm going to have to look for that. Which means that tonight I'm just going to continue cleaning this up. I'm going to leave my jerry-rigged setup over here. Let the transmission fluid just do its thing. I'll clean it up, but there's going to be residual. And then I will get the rest of the cooling system plugged up, because I can access that other port right there from the front. That won't be a problem, but well, it's better that it happened here. So I got this hooked up. That's running to the heater core. Nice clearance here, no rubbing. This is that Y hose. This one goes down to the oil cooler. This one comes from the water pump, so as that's spinning, it's always putting coolant somewhere. So I guess the hope is that this heater core holds water. It looks like it's been replaced before. You can see that by the red hose. So crossing fingers on that. Radiator is hooked up. This is hooked up. Cap's on. It's solid. One of the things I'm going to have to do, I don't know how necessary it is, but I'm probably going to wind up coming up with a solution anyway, is this alternator has a bracket bolt right here that when it was positioned originally there was a bracket, which I've got the bracket in this drawer. I believe it was this one that, yeah, that would attach to the header bolt just like that, and you can see the exhaust bolt. That won't work. So what I'm considering doing is creating a bracket that's going to go to this bolt hole right here. It looks like I'm missing a bolt here. which I'm sure I've got extras, because every project starts with one and ends with some missing bolts. But I'm going to have to figure out another way to brace this, although I think if I got it here, it might be okay. I'll just keep an eye on that one. I'm not really in a huge hurry on that. I'm going to swap out this hose I had going to the vacuum port on the carb. Right here, this is manifold vacuum. It could go to the back. It really doesn't matter. I honestly need to read more about the carbs and see how they're supposed to function, what ports where. I know eventually, like, I'm pretty sure this is called ported vacuum, and that's it. Yeah, so this is manifold vacuum because it's coming straight out of the manifold. This is coming straight out of the port, or from the carburetor. So the carburetor is getting vacuum and then it bleeds off a certain amount, and I guess there's a timing difference between the two and a volume difference. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's what I believe the story is. So anywho, getting there. I'm probably just going to call it quits for tonight. I'll get that one hose routed that I was referring to, but I think that's going to do it for me for tonight. Go do some research, try to figure out the story on that weird plug, which I will show you. It's this guy. There's clearly an O-ring, and someone had silicone gasketed it or something before, and maybe in the second time of, I don't know. I honestly don't have a clue. I do know that the pan, which I know it's dark, but it won't be, the pan is not leaking because I hosed all this off, and the fluid level for sure, maybe it's a slight weep there, although that could be residual. It could be residual still. We'll just keep an eye on that. But I know, yeah, there's some tranny fluid dripping down there, but where that hole is, if I dip my finger, you can see that. That's right to the top. So that means that the fluid level is right up here. And that actually probably means it's got the right amount of fluid, although I don't know how bad it would be to overfill it, but we'll cross that bridge later. I honestly don't plan on using this overdrive until I get it sorted and it just runs through all the 4 gears just fine. So if that solenoid stays just unactivated, then I'm totally fine with it. Yeah, so at least this is all sealing, and there's no problems with fluid back there coming out. So I think I got this sealed up finally. So that's a small victory. I'll just have to do some research and try to figure out what the heck's going on with that hole up here. That's just so bizarre. Maybe what could have happened is I just never got it up to that point before it started weeping out of here and I stopped adding fluid. Which makes sense, because I put in a full 2 quarts, and I don't think I put in a full 2 quarts before I started seeing it leak before. I'm pretty sure. Anywho, so that's pretty much it. Is that weeping? No. That's just, well, that's a drain. I never had that off. Yeah, anywho. Yeah, so those big headers, they're gonna probably spit out right about here, if I was to guess. Or maybe down a little. I'm not sure. We'll see. When those arrive Friday, and with any luck I can get this part then as well, because I also don't really want to run this. And I know that you got to jack up the rear end of the car and get the wheels spinning to activate the pump inside this. And so it would be wise to do that so that I can get fluid circulated through the unit and then check the level again, which is on the other side. So similar to how this is the gear lube fill and this is the drain, the other side's got a very similar situation, but just for this back half unit. Yeah, whole bunch of nerdery. That's what you get with me. So, and yes, of course, I'm out here working in the dark again. That's just what I do. So yeah, that's probably going to do it for tonight. I'll let you guys know what I find out on that plug and find something to do and then go to it. Find something to do and then go do it. Simple as that. All right. So I figured out what that thingy was on the Doug Nash thingy bob. Technical terms, I know. Oh, who's calling? Anyway, real quick, what that is the earlier models had a TV valve or a TV cable on them, and they're not necessary. So I just ordered a new one of those up. Anywho, I'll be back. All right. So I got the brake booster routed to manifold vacuum there. That's the manifold vacuum port. That's running over to the vacuum advance. I don't love the color of that. I'm just kind of seeing if it works. And then I've got the PCV hooked up to manifold vacuum here. So that should help with that. I need to just get a breather for this, which shouldn't be that difficult to find. But that's all I'm going to need in terms of vacuum ports on this thing. This is called ported vacuum, and it is plugged off. If this was an emissions controlled vehicle, then that would be a different story. But that's good. It's set to go. I may put a pressure tester on this thing for the cooling system, just see if I hear any air coming out anywhere. I shouldn't, with the exception of maybe down here. I don't entirely know, but I'm going to just go ahead and do that. Things are getting close. I'm obviously just preparing and waiting for those long tubes to show up. When those show up, I'll get them hooked up, get the distributor hooked up. Oh, interesting. So that should be more like over there anyway. Yeah, it's ugly, but it'll work. So yeah, that's the plan here, is to just keep moving this thing forward a little bit. I did find a bolt that I mentioned last night to go into here. So that's in the cylinder head. This is far more rigid than it was. I'd still like to make a bracket that goes under around there and then attaches to that bolt hole in the head. But when the headers get here, I need to make sure that I'm going to have access to that bolt hole. Otherwise, I'll have to figure something else out. Although, I really don't think this is going to move around. I did wing the engine over yesterday just to get some prime, and I managed to get 40 pounds of oil pressure on just the starter. So that's going well. I'm happy with that. And as I was saying earlier, but my buddy Rick was calling me. He's allowed to call me. Nothing wrong with that. On top of the Doug Nash overdrive unit here, which you're probably barely going to be able to see, there's a hole in the other unit. This is a later unit from I think an 86 to 89. The one that was attached to the transmission that I installed under here was for an 84 and 85. They used what's called a TV cable, and what I read on it was essentially all it does is it bleeds off extra pressure from the overdrive clutches when it decides it's going to shift out of overdrive. They just determined ultimately that it was unnecessary and deep sixed it. So I bought a new TV cable that's coming, and I'm just going to snip it off and plug the hole because I don't see any reason for it. If they didn't use it on the later ones, and I'm hardly going to use it anyway, who cares, right? So anyway, that's the plan. Yeah, I've gotten plenty of oil pressure So I was really happy with that. Yep, and you can see fresh oil down in there, which tells me it's doing what it should. Yeah, so this thing is more or less plumbed up. Just need to run the exhaust and the distributor to the wires, get this thing timed. Yes, I'll take that off and just squeeze off that hose for the time being when I set the timing on the motor, and I'll see how much that alternator is going to shake around. It's mounted in two places. This is kind of a long run over here, but it's pretty stiff. The whole thing is pretty stiff, and it's mounted not just here but to this bracket down below as well. So I just don't know how necessary it is. If it's running and I see it shaking around or flopping or deflecting or something, then I may do something different, but for the time being I'm not really going to worry about it. Yeah, so that's the PVC check valve that's run to the manifold port on that thing. Thank God for the internet. When you go and look up Edelbrock Performer 2101, they don't really describe what any of that stuff is. So fortunately, with a little bit of Google foo, I was able to get that taken care of. So yeah, anywho, that's the story. I'm pretty well done for tonight. I've got my church home group thing that I go to on Tuesday nights that I'm attending, so I won't have any time to do anything else. But pretty pleased so far. And good to know that like a $15 cable will take care of that unfortunate issue with the trans fluid just leaking out of there like a sieve. So it happens, you know. All right, welcome back to another edition of Paul Doing Paul Things. So pretentious. I just want people to see that you do stuff, you know. So anyway, so I gave a battery charger to a buddy of mine, so I needed to get a new one. And so I found on Amazon, the Jungle website, a Schumacher, I don't even know, they change their model numbers all the time, SC1218. It's actually kind of a beefy unit. It's not bad. Retails for like $99. It's usually for sale for $89, and Amazon had a used like new. I have no idea. I mean, whatever. If it works, I don't really care. Not a big deal. So I got that thing. I got my TV cable. So that's effectively just going to be a plug for the thing in the transmission. I'll probably just snip it off. And then here's what I'm looking for today. Yes. USA made cheap ass headers. And I want to get that installed. I'm going to have to install a new power steering pump into the truck, which I'm taking Monday off so I can do that. Note to self, edit out my address, although people probably see it anyway. I honestly don't care. If I get pissed at you because you show up at my house, not that anyone watches this, just deal with it. I mean, I get a bunch of people all the time. Hell, half the time I don't get any work done because of that. We got people coming over and visiting, which I'm not complaining about. It's much better to be in relationship with folks. Clank. But before I really get to this, we'll just take the parts out and take a look. Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah. These are 5/16 flanges. We'll just take one of these guys out. Supposedly these just slip right in, no problem. Yeah. Made in USA. 3 guesses what I'm going to do with this stuff. Ball and socket type collector. Yep, the collectors are in there. Here's the other side header. That's drivers and that's passengers right there. It's funny looking up on the websites. New set of gaskets. I'll probably use these for the initial break-in and switch over to the fancy pants aluminum ones, these guys, because I hear that they'll seal better overall. I got a hose for some reason. I have no idea what that's for. There's a nice look at my nose. And weldable header collectors. Got the EO number so I can throw that in the car. Not that I care, but one of the things I have to do today before I even get to cracking on that is my wife had come home from a trip and she had gone in and out of the garage so much, sorry about the filming, that my garage door opener started smoking, and I'm like, oh great, now I need to buy a new garage door opener. Well, it turns out that these capacitors in here go bad, so I got a new one. It's, well, it doesn't even really say, but it's, I think 19988 is what the model number is. And this one doesn't look terrible, but when it's running, you can feel the capacitor vibrating. And I know from experience when it comes to guitar amps that use large electrolytics like this, 70 UF, 220 VAC, that means it'll handle 140 UF at 110. But I'm just going to swap this in and get that buttoned up so I don't have to worry about it. But the capacitors start smoking eventually, and they start letting all the smoke out. And when all the smoke's out, it's really hard to put it back in. So I'm not going to film this. This is just a simple repair and replace. Just take those leads off, swap them over, put it in, test it, call it good. I got the new battery charger because, well, I like having one. This one has 100 amp start, draws 30 amps peak, but the battery is, even though it's a new battery, I kind of winged on it for like 45 seconds or so the other night, and I just want to make sure it's up to snuff and charged up well. So I'm going to do that, and then I discovered on the website a hack for installing the alternator bracket, which I kind of pointed out in another video. I'm going to go ahead and just, what you do is you use the factory bolt with the spacer built in, and then the alternator bracket will bolt right up without anything. It's effectively an extension. If you use just a regular bolt, then you're going to have to fab something. So I'll see what I can do with that. The bolt bucket will provide, of course. So yeah, I'm going to get started, and I'll take you guys along for the ride. Yeah, you can. It's not exciting, but I did run into a real quick problem. It probably has to do more with my heads than it has to do with anything. Hopefully you can see this. I don't think that these are the problem, the headers. I think that these head bolts are drilled offset. It's kind of hard to see. There we go. You can kind of see it's not perfectly lined up. And there's the other hole. It's even worse. So my plan of attack is going to pull this header out and drill those holes out in the header. Make them a little bit wider. So that's the plan. It doesn't need much, but yep, that's the plan. So I decided to go ahead and just chop that stupid stuff off. You saw me struggling trying to get that thing in, so I just chopped it off, just filled up those holes. I'm going to do the other side as well. Just get those out of there because I just don't care. I'm going to grind these down, take a look at them, see how they look after I've welded them, make sure there's no gaps or anything, and then I'll worry about wallering out the holes in the back a little bit later. Alright, so I wallered these out just a little bit on the back side here. You can see these are all plugged up well. So what I always do on these is I cut them off, weld them up, grind them down to make sure that there's no holes, and there were a couple, so I just took care of it, and there we go. I mean, if I was really like building a performance rig, I'd cut those things out, but I don't really care. I don't think they're going to make a hill of beans, so we'll just leave it. You can see this hole. It's not exactly a circle. Could be cleaned up. These are the budget line, so I'm not terribly worried about it. But I think this will do the job. I'm going to go ahead and try to get this one installed. Alright, driver's side is in. Still need to put spark plugs in, but I'm not terribly worried about it. There's plenty of room. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with spark plug boots or anything. This header bolt, I shaved down the outside of it just to get it started. And by the way, these are 3/8. This one went in no problem, no problem, no problem, no problem. And this one, because I'm going to support the alternator bracket off of here. You can see my thumb here is one spot, and then there's that. I just took an old exhaust bolt, shaved down the flange, flipped it around backwards, and got it in there. So that's good. That's 9/16. Should be good to go. So this side's done. I'm going to do the same modifications to the header on the passenger side and go from there. I'll get the plugs in just for giggles. Well, 3 of 4 got in, and I got plenty of room for boots. I'm not worried about that. This one, on the other hand, these are long spark plugs. They make shorter versions, and that's what I'm going to need to get that one in. And then next time around I buy plugs, I'll just get all shorties so that I get even more clearance. But that's good. So I don't know how much I'm going to do. It's almost 9 o'clock and I don't want to annoy the hell out of my neighbors too much. So I'll probably cut off that shit and maybe weld the stuff together, because that shouldn't take too much noise, and then I can always close the garage door a little bit. But yeah, I'll get those cut off and go from there. Alright, let me turn off the copyright strike. Not that anyone knows who Evergray is. I'm going to go ahead and record me welding these up. Ain't too bad. Just throw this on there. Fire up the machine. And I am not God's gift to welding by any stretch of the imagination. But I can get it done. I honestly don't care about the way it looks that much. Hot rod, not actual. Let's see, they say 030 16138. We're going to go 17207. And hopefully I can just spritz these on. Blowing through. I'm going to drop all that down a bit. Much better. One thing's for sure, you can't go crazy on sheet metal. You gotta just tack away. That much I know. This one's going to be real fun. Alright, now flip over to here. There we go. So the next step will be grinding that down. And after you grind that down, get off of here, you'll be able to see if you got any holes or anything. But I'm not terribly worried about it. And again, I don't care about the way it looks so much. I just want to get this done. So, yeah. Good job, Hedman. You did great. Alright, so I'm going to call it for the night. Let me show you the small issue. It's not an issue. This dipstick tube, I'm going to have to remove it, and it's behind the starter. I didn't have to pull the starter, but what might be the smartest thing is to go ahead and pull the starter. Or I'll just look online and see what it takes to pull the dipstick tube out. But that's where I'm going to leave it for now. Driver's side is all cinched up and ready to rock, so I'm happy with that. Not terribly concerned about this side, and I may decide just to leave the headers in and not paint them. Who cares? It's really not that critical for me. I got the TV cable installed, but I noticed some cleanup as I go here. I noticed some ATF kind of still leaking down a little bit under here. This freaking Doug Nash is going to be the death of me ultimately. To be fair, I did kind of shoot this from the other side, and I know it's got plenty of fluid in it. We'll just see if it weeps out here. Yeah, that's that TV cable. It's hooked up and just running up and over there. I think pulling the starter won't be too big of a deal. Just to pull the dipstick tube out. I know I could install the headers from the top, and you can see they don't hang low hardly at all. They're in great shape. And what I'll have to do is I'll have to section these here somewhere. I'll get them measured up, get the back end hung up, and then I'll measure, cut it out, grab those flanges, put them on here, weld them up, and then the ball collector is, I guess everyone raves about them. They say it's great. Yeah, I'm not seeing any weeping, and I'm sure it's full enough as it is. Well, maybe there's a little weep there. Let's try that again. It's hard to tell. Liberal amounts. But now that I got that in, I'll top off some more of the fluid, and then when I come out tomorrow, I'll definitely be able to see if it's weeping from anything. Yeah, how exciting. How exciting. Yeah, there might be a little bit of a weep here. You know, fluid's kind of funny like that. It's always hard to tell exactly where it's weeping from. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of a weep here. But I may be able to just run some RTV over that. Just cut this down and then run some over. Well, if it's weeping now, it'll probably show a nice witness mark tomorrow, so yeah, I'm gonna just forget about it for tonight. It's getting late enough. I got a burrito waiting for me, so that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, you'd think you'd see it by now. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think it's leaking from anywhere else. But my plan is just to leave the cable hooked up and it's just run up and over. I'm not terribly worried about it. I know one thing that could give me some more room is if I pulled this off for now. I wouldn't be scratching up the header. Not that I care that much, but you know, this thing's going to be sitting up like this. And that end is going to be moved upwards as well, so yeah, like that ish. They don't hang that low. I'm pretty happy with that. That was always a concern. Yeah, I'm not seeing any weeping, so that could have been just residual. ATF just runs everywhere, so it's always hard to find the leak if there is one. And I may just come back through here with a little bit of the right stuff and just fudge it over and seal it. It's nice and that color, so I'm not terribly worried about it. Let's see if I can introduce a leak. I mean, no one's going to be beating on it. Yeah, I don't see anything obvious. That's good, I hope. Anywho, now I look like a Cyclops alien person thing. Yep, so get out there, find something to do and get out there and do it. Yeah, those are my words for you. Well, it's been a heck of a day. So I replaced the torsion springs on my garage a while ago, but apparently didn't get those tight enough, because when I came out, that spool of cable was all jacked up. Looks like it's lined up fine now. But I think what happened was, I think this spring up here, which you can see right there, that came loose up here. So these nuts right up here, 7/16, they tighten up and hold the tension, and it's just terrifying working with those. I used the proper rods, not at first, but I found the ones I had. Yeah, so anyway, that was a real fun day getting that thing fixed, but I got it fixed. It didn't take a day, it just took a couple hours. So I crawled under the car, tried to pull the dipstick tube out, and now I've got an excellent two-piece dipstick tube. That's the part that goes into the block. I don't know what happened to the other one. There it is. So that's how long that guy is. Good news is, well, we'll see how well it fits. It may sit a little taller. Well, it looks about the same length. My local AutoZone had a dipstick tube that'll fit. Oh yeah, that'll work just fine. Stoked on that. It may stick out a little bit longer. Yeah, because that's the little ring that's right there. No, it's going to be basically the same, which is awesome. Happy about that. I pulled the starter out so that I could get to it, which is just 2 bolts, not a big deal. And let's see. Found some marginally shorter spark plugs, so I'm hoping those will fit. That one will go in here. I know that they run in quite deep, so that won't be an issue. I did have some leaking down on this trans pan. It was weeping. Well, it's weeping less now that I've siliconed it a little bit in the corners, but I can clean that up and add some more, and that should be good. But with any luck being the operative term. Hey, look at this carburetor cleaner delivery. Look at that guy. You're just allergic to shoes, aren't you?
Yeah.
I get it.
I don't like them.
I get it.
How would you like this, sir?
Just down's fine. I'll figure out a home for it. Look at all that good stuff. Yeah, we buy this stuff from, well, not California, for a reason. Now someone's calling me. Spam. Anyway. Oh, stuff's killer. All right, I'm done for now. All right, here's the deal. I'm gonna have to beat on this spark. I need to find some shorter spark plugs. I think that's what I'm gonna do before I beat on this. See what I can get. I'm just struggling to find good info. But this header is bolted up and tight, so I'm good there. And I got the passenger side done. And the next thing I gotta do is install this dipstick tube. So this one's tightened up and ready to go. I lost another bolt. I'd like to find it, which I'm sure it'll just appear magically somewhere, and then I can just swap that out. But these are all snugged up, ready to go. Lots of clearance on these. This one was a little tight, but this was bent up enough that I didn't have to worry about it. And the boot will clear. I'll throw one on real quick. Gonna get hot. The reason why I want shorter plugs is because it's a federal case trying to tighten the spark plugs up. Anyway, you gotta believe me, that'll go on. Definitely not gonna get this thing fired up tonight. But that's why I want shorter plugs, just to make life a little bit easier on install of all these. All the plugs are snugged up. Now I'm gonna try to slip this in. I know that it's directly below the third bolt right here. Oh, I reran the fuel line, tucked it back. This one's really close. But the good news is that one's not being used for anything. That was the original feed line. So this is my new feed line, the one I made a while ago. So as a temporary solution, that'll work just fine for now. But I can eventually bend this down and around and get it tucked under here and coming up right over here. Have a nice short connection, and that'll be good when I run the fuel injected setup. But the plugs are in, the headers are on, plenty of clearance underneath there. Tighten that up a little bit. The tranny still got a little bit of a weep. I'm gonna just come out here. So it's sealed up down here, and now it's creeping up this way. It means these pans are just notorious for this. But those are just running all the way. And it's just kind of the way it goes. But yeah, you'll see that's the header. It lines up really well, and they're tucked up pretty good. Can't really complain about that. So I'm happy with that. I know I'm gonna have to eventually drill and install an O2 sensor. I mean, I don't have to, but I want to, because I kind of want to see what air fuels are doing and all that good stuff. Had a nice conversation with a guy named Austin from White Knight Pest Control. He was convinced he was going to sell me, but he just didn't realize how stubborn of a guy I am. I mean, look what I'm working on. Of course, I'm stubborn. Oh God, it's weeping all the way around. Yeah, it's just kind of the nature of the beast. It's at least not leaking out of here. This is nice and dry up here. It's just a weep around all that stuff. I debated on, and I may still do it, installing a power steering style reservoir up at the top, just so I can kind of check on this. I did say power steering. Yeah, I said power steering, but I meant ATF. It was but using a power steering type reservoir just to keep an eye on this stuff. But I mean, that's weeping around the bolt, and that's because that one's stripped out. It's just, I mean, the proper way would probably be helicoil all these, and maybe I'll do that at some point. But I gotta get it leaking less than this. This is about 2 hours of accumulation, so it's fairly egregious, if I say so myself. But I'm gonna attempt to get the dipstick installed and then call it a night. This is just slogging away, man. It just takes time and effort. It'd be cool to be able to reuse my dipstick in this thing, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Well, I think that's what I get for buying a cheap dipstick tube. I can't really get it in. Maybe if I beat on it that way. I already mangled it. I think I'm going to look for a low car or something better. Yeah. But at least if I fire it up now, I know there's 5.5 quarts in there, it shouldn't leak out of there. But I'm going to call it quits for tonight. I'm going to look for some shorter spark plugs and a better dipstick tube. But I'm definitely going to call it for tonight. It's just been a long day so far. So I don't feel super defeated. I feel like I've accomplished quite a bit, but I got Tommy coming over tomorrow. We're doing work on his wife's car, and this will have to wait till late Monday or sometime later in the week. I'll get her. I'll get her eventually. Oh, that was a fail. I don't love this breather. I think I got to put the grommet in first. Whatever. Get out there and do something.